deep in the shadow-soaked hollows of the Appalachian Mountains, where fog never fully lifts and civilization stops at the tree line, something is hiding. Not animals, not ghosts, but the rotting, forgotten ruins of illegal empires built on fire, secrecy, and survival. These aren't tourist spots. They aren't on any map. They are forbidden places, sealed off by law, swallowed by nature, or simply too dangerous for any sane person to enter. 8 moonshiner hideouts so eerie, so deeply buried in these ancient mountains, that even locals refuse to speak their names after dark. This is where history turns sinister. Number 1. The Copper Hollow Still Cave, Virginia. Nestled beneath a limestone cliff in the remote backcountry of southwest Virginia lies what locals have called the Copper Hollow Still Cave, a natural cavern that was converted sometime in the early 1920s into one of the most productive illegal distilleries in Appalachian history. The cave stretches nearly 200 feet deep into the mountainside. Federal agents, known locally as revenuers, stumbled upon it during a 1924 raid. What they found inside was astonishing. Copper pot stills bolted to the stone walls, underground creek water diverted through handmade wooden pipes, and the charred remains of a cooking fire that had been burning for what appeared to be years. 3 men were arrested. 2 were never found. Today, the cave sits on private land, fenced off with rusted wire and hand-painted signs warning trespassers of prosecution. The cave has never been fully explored since the 1924 raid. Part of the ceiling collapsed in the 1970s, burying whatever equipment still remained inside. Hikers who have wandered near the property line report the unmistakable smell of fermentation drifting through the trees, even now, 100 years later. This location is off-limits because it sits on private property with active no trespass enforcement. Any entry without permission is a criminal offense under Virginia state law. Number 2. The Smokeless Hollow Operation, North Carolina. The Blue Ridge Parkway draws millions of visitors every year. What those tourists don't know is that just half a mile off one of its most scenic overlooks in western North Carolina, buried beneath decades of kudzu vine and collapsed timber, is the wreckage of what law enforcement once called the Smokeless Operation. In the 1930s, a family operation in Yancey County developed a method of moonshining so sophisticated it produced almost no visible smoke, the telltale sign that revenuers used to locate illegal stills from ridge tops. They used dry-cured hardwoods, sealed copper condensers, and underground flue systems to distribute heat without releasing a visible plume. The site was only discovered in 1938 when a mule carrying supplies broke its leg on a hidden access trail, and a local veterinarian, following the blood trail, stumbled upon the complex by accident. What the veterinarian found reportedly shook him so deeply that he refused to discuss it publicly until his deathbed interview in 1971. Historical records from that interview describe not just a still, but an entire underground community, living quarters, food storage, a rudimentary schoolroom. The site today falls within a protected buffer zone adjacent to the Blue Ridge Parkway. Ground disturbance of any kind is a federal offense carrying significant fines and possible jail time. Number 3. The Ghost Still of Harlan County, Kentucky. Harlan County, Kentucky is known for coal, conflict, and a stubbornness baked into its identity over generations. But among the older families of the county, there is one thing spoken of only in hushed tones: the ghost still. Nobody knows exactly where it is. And that, historians argue, is precisely the point. During Prohibition, a man known locally only as Preacher, his real name lost to history, operated a mobile still that never stayed in one location longer than 3 weeks. He would disassemble the entire operation, move it miles through the mountain terrain using pack mules, and rebuild it in a new hollow before law enforcement could triangulate his position. What remains of the ghost still isn't a fixed location. It's a trail of artifacts. Buried copper coils discovered during a construction project in 1984. A charred wooden barrel frame found by hunters in 1997. Ceramic jugs, hand-blown and unmarked, that continue to surface after heavy rainfalls erode the hillside soil. The Kentucky Heritage Council has designated the general area as an archaeological survey zone. Any artifact removal is a violation of the Kentucky Antiquities Act, punishable by up to 2 years imprisonment per item removed. Number 4. The Watkins Ridge Compound, West Virginia. In the northeastern corner of West Virginia, on a ridge so steep that modern vehicles cannot reach its summit, sit the remains of what federal investigators called the most organized illegal distillery complex ever discovered east of the Mississippi River. The Watkins Ridge Compound, raided in 1949 after a 7-year surveillance operation, was not merely a still. It was a fortified production facility, multiple buildings, a separate water collection system fed by 3 mountain springs, barbed wire perimeters, and armed lookouts posted at elevated positions accessible only by foot. The operators had bribed or intimidated virtually every law enforcement officer within a 40-mile radius. When agents finally arrived, the compound was abandoned. The equipment was intact. The fires were still warm. But not a single person was present. No one connected to the Watkins Ridge compound was ever successfully prosecuted. The case file remains open. Today the property is classified as contaminated land. Decades of distillation using industrial-grade materials left heavy metal residue, lead, copper compounds, and fermentation byproducts in the soil and nearby stream bed. Entry is prohibited not just by law, but by genuine physical danger. The ground itself is toxic. Number 5. The Moonshine Cathedral, Tennessee. In the folklore of East Tennessee, there is a place called the Moonshine Cathedral. Locals debate whether it is real or legend. Federal records suggest it is very, very real. Discovered during an aerial survey of Cocke County in 1961, the site was described as a naturally occurring rock amphitheater, approximately 40 meters in diameter, with a vaulted stone ceiling reaching 12 meters at its peak. Inside this geological formation, someone had installed 16 separate copper pot stills, arranged in rows, fed by a single underground water source, and vented through natural rock chimneys in the cave ceiling. The scale was unprecedented. The site could produce, at full capacity, an estimated 2,000 gallons of moonshine per week. The individuals responsible were never identified. The Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation today manages the surrounding land as part of a protected watershed area. Public access requires a permit that is, in practice, never issued for recreational purposes. The geological formation itself is structurally unstable. Portions of the vaulted ceiling have fallen since the 1961 discovery. This is one of those places where the law and basic survival instinct both point in the same direction. Stay out. Number 6. The remaining 3. Classified, contested, and cursed. The final 3 locations share something in common. Their exact coordinates are either actively withheld by government agencies, disputed by competing historical claims, or so deeply embedded in ongoing legal proceedings that naming them precisely would itself be legally problematic. The first is a site in the Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky, where a 1930s moonshining operation was built directly on top of a pre-colonial era Native American burial ground. The moonshine operators had unknowingly, or perhaps knowingly, excavated and destroyed portions of a historically significant site. The Forest Service has sealed the entire 2-acre area. Dual federal protections, archaeological and environmental, apply simultaneously. The second is a location in the Nantahala National Forest in North Carolina, a site so remote it was only identified through LiDAR aerial scanning technology in 2019. The scan revealed structural outlines invisible to ground-level observation, hidden beneath 80 years of forest regrowth. A single academic team was permitted limited access in 2021. Their findings have not been publicly released. The Forest Service cites ongoing cultural resource assessment as the reason for continued public exclusion. The third site, and perhaps the most unsettling, sits on the Tennessee-Georgia border, on land whose ownership is genuinely disputed between two states, a private family trust, and the federal government. The legal case has been in litigation since 1978. No party with standing has authorized public access. It is, in the most literal legal sense, ungoverned territory within the borders of the United States. According to county records from 1951, a moonshining operation sits at its center, and no one has officially entered since that year. Whatever is in there has been left alone for over 70 years. And there is probably a reason for that. These 8 places aren't just history, they are warnings. The mountains kept these secrets for a reason. Some doors were sealed by law, some by nature, some by things no regulation can explain. If you ever find yourself standing at the edge of a hollow like this, turn around.